Yeah. 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 Memories. Memories. Memories.
both 2-0 right now from their past matches, so this is going to be one of those situations where someone has to take the L.
Yeah, absolutely. And it happens at some point, you're doing well into the season, then you get matched up in somebody else who is, pretty much has the same record as you, and then boom, you have to give a winner at some point and a loser at some point. So with that being said, we have our teams, we have our division. Masters has been a very, very, very fun tier to cast, by the way, because you see the finesse, you see the mechanical difference between them and, like, let's say Diamond tier, but there's still some little mistakes that happen. There's still some little, like, hey, you used to be Diamond, that, like, kind of happens sometimes, and it's so fun to see, and really commentate over. But again, very excited to cover these two teams once more. We have, I believe, our first map going into this week, and with the meta always ever changing, I used to be confident about what we would see on our control maps, the Ilios, the Oasises, the Busans of the world, the Lijiang Towers of the world. And then suddenly it's like, I don't know. I don't know what to expect sometimes.
I think a lot of it just comes also with, I guess, the new characters that get pulled into these matches, right? With the introduction of Wu Yang very early in this season, a lot of teams have slowly incorporated him into the gameplay, and while some of them incorporated right away, others have still stuck to kind of like the old ways and running with that because that's what they have practiced and rehearsed, while others are actually just learning as a match goes by, because there have been matchups, at least one that I casted last week, where I think it ended up in a 3-2 scenario with a reverse sweep because one team wasn't using the Wu Yang yet, but then learned how to figure out how to play it over the course of the match, was even crazy itself.
No, absolutely. Wu Yang is a menace. Like, let's talk about it. That character, you need to know how to play Wu Yang, I feel like, and you need to be able to play Wu Yang with a plethora of characters, because he is really flexible, like Juno in that regard, where you can play Wu Yang Kiriko is the most popular one, but you can also play Wu Yang, anyone you really want. Of course, again, most popular one is gonna be Kiriko, and for good reason. She's still very much strong in the backline of all things, but there's some variation as well on top of that. DPS line, I will say, I feel like hasn't really shifted too much between patches. You still see Soj, you still see Cassidy, you still see Tracer, Genji. Reaper's the only one I will say who has been kind of making a reoccurrence, a comeback in that greater DPS space. And Bastion. Hold on, we had a Bastion, I think, last week on King's Row, and I was like, it's working. Don't know why it's working. In terms of tanks, I feel kind of the same way, where a lot of tanks are just kind of really coming back, and other ones that were so prominent last season or even 2 patches ago, they're now just kind of, oh, she was meta for a little bit, who cares?
Yeah, it's one of those things where with every new patch update, and I think this is one of the few patch updates where there really was a shift in the type of playstyle or meta that is happening, because right before these armor patches, right, we saw like a huge amount of Ramatra and Orisa, and now that they've finally fixed all of that, small indie company, you could give a say of just, hey, now other tags are able to get the respective limelight because you're not running into that similar bug, and at the same time you have new characters that are coming in with that Wu Yang, for example, so it allows for a lot of variation. And I think you did mention the Reaper suddenly coming into this resurgence with, I think, just the ability to brawl a bit better, given these whole new changes in how heroes work.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that being said, I do know that we're in week 3, and as every per week basis, it is a chosen control map. I can't remember the word chosen for a second in English. It's a chosen control map. So this week we're gonna go over to the beautiful, beautiful place of Busan. You can kind of see that in our background, a little hint of where we're going next. And then of course, subsequently, the loser has the option of not just, they don't pick both ban and map. They choose one or the other. They either choose the ban first or they choose the map first, right? Boom. So lots of teams will typically like gear towards for their map 2, like a flashpoint, like a mostly escort. We've noticed has been pretty popular as of late, but with King's Row in the map pool, a lot of teams kind of keep her as like a pocket, like game 5 banger, like win, and it either like goes well or doesn't go well. It is what it is. It ain't what it ain't. But like we said, Busan's the first one coming up on deck, and it's a pretty flexible map for a lot of compositions to be played, like you know, Roadhog and Hazard and Winston, and a lot of great characters that I love to see, like Roadhog.
I feel like Roadhog is too much cookage for my liking. I don't know what else to say about that, but I think we should at least get this idea. We're going into Busan. It's our first control map. It's pretty much set. And I think from there, you could still run a variety of compositions. I always say Busan is that one map where you really can flex into different types of compositions. You're not really hard set on something like Brawl, how we would expect Lijiang Tower to be quintessentially a Brawl map of sorts. Busan allows for a bit of some flexibility. Some players still running maybe a weird wrecking ball in some parts of the map is one. Others would prefer to just stick it to something like maybe a Hazard coming through Resurgent. It really depends which sub-map we're starting in, but we should at least have an idea of who will be playing, at least for this respective matches, right, Mott?
Oh, for sure. And I love you also mentioned Ball. I kind of forgot about Ball, but mind you, I've been casting Ball like nonstop for the past week, and it's just like, yeah, I forget that he's also a very valid choice, especially if you're lucky enough to not only just start off on, but even get to downtown. You know, if you can play that beam it. If you can play that dive, that'd be even better. But that depends on if you even see Ball, because we have bans coming in for both of our teams here. So let's go over there and see what exactly we're going to be seeing from each of these teams in the ban phase. We have low ground main banning first, of course, and the options are so open. You can go for something a little more safer, something that you know is really good on Busan, or you can go for a very targeted ban if you did your scouting and your job, you know, of course. So with that being said, what can you kind of expect here to see from Busan as a pliable ban?
I think there's been a surge of actual Lucio bans on control maps, and I think a lot of it has been due to people wanting to play Wuyang, but for low ground main, I think they want that Zarya out. It might be hinting on the type of tanks that they want to play, or at least want to maybe avoid dealing with something like the dirty bubble of the Reaper Zarya type of tandem. Another way to view it is they want to roll out on an Orisa or maybe a Diva. Diva maybe not as likely, but Orisa definitely still has some stake in the game compared to Ramasha. Still some teams still playing Orisa.
It's the dirty bubble for me, because you're right, that bubble with Reaper in it is dirty. And just as you had mentioned, we do see the Lucio ban coming out from Iliad Poseidon. And you are right. You know, Lucio has been a more popular ban as of late. It really inhibits a lot of these brawl compositions. It inhibits that movability. It inhibits Lucio just being kind of an off DPS. And in that sense, you know, where he likes to go and speed around and, you know, bother everybody. So I like the Lucio ban, especially because it also forces you to use either a backline that is more stable, like, for example, a Brig and a Ana, for example, or maybe a Bap and a Brig, or it forces you to supplement that with Juno. And Juno, not terribly strong right now, just because her ult charge takes 10,000 years to proc up. But either way, it forces a really interesting composition besides just Kiri Lucio the entire 5 games we have. So with that being said, the Zarya ban comes in from low ground main. We have Iliad Poseidon with the Lucio ban. And now let's also talk about our teams at length. First and foremost, we have low ground main and their starting roster here. We have Pred coming back. We have Kind, High Quality, Saucer, and Zeta. I am excited to see that these guys come back. I love that this is actually a real comp that they have with their favorite heroes. This is a very real comp we might actually see.
I mean, I think I saw low ground main play something like this last week when I last casted them. So this is really within the realm of the cards. But on the other side, we do have to see Iliad Poseidon and their respective lineup. That DPS line of Rambo and Britsky, George Sun on that tank line, and Drain, Cowboy, and Batman running the back line. And just looking at this, pretty interesting. If you try to apply this type of, I guess, composition into like an actual matchup, it's going to just feel like your Reaper is that like mainstay kind of on the point presence compared to Wrecking Ball. But this is viable compositional wise. Hard, but still viable.
Oh, for sure. Zen and Brig is such a, like, it's such a backline that is kind of underappreciated, but I love it so much. Batman's name reminded me that I just now started reading Absolute Batman, and it is an absolute, like, pleasure, and I was like, oh my god, Batman. I'm so Batman pilled right now. But yes, here are our starting 5 lineup. The head-to-head, the first to 3 series between low ground main and Iliad Poseidon. Again, starting things off on Ilios. Starting things off with that Lucio and that Zarya ban for good measure. Now, if we're lucky, like I mentioned, we might be able to see George Sun pull out the ball early on in like a downtown. Even Tempo, you can kind of run and be cheeky with the ball, but once you kind of get to Mecha Base, that's kind of where you might feel the need to swap something a little bit more stable, something a little bit more grounded, like an Orisa, for example. Or even Hazard, to an extent, I would say, is also a pretty grounded dive tank because he can just stay there with Spike Guard. He doesn't really need to get in and out like Winston, for example. So I feel like High Quality might be able to get away with playing Hazard for not just one, but maybe all 3 sub-maps. Granted, if we go to all 3 rounds, of course, but that's enough yapping. We should be getting into this lobby relatively soon, and excited to see kind of what our DPS and backline do take up in that regard.
I think the fact that you ban out the Lucio right away in control already sets the tone of what backline you're already having. A lot of teams, the moment Lucio is banned in that first point, would, or at least in that control map, would normally gravitate towards a Wuyang with, you know, usually a Kiri, sometimes a BAP, really depends, but most teams going towards that Wuyang Kiri type of lineup. So I would not be surprised if that is what these teams may be running out with. Another option still available in the cards is Ana Brig, should you opt to do that. Your Ana and Brig definitely a bit more stagnant, so you're definitely going to be running maybe a DPS or a tank line that can sustain on their own just as needed. But already we see the picks, and already expected you have that Wuyang Kiri on the side of low ground main. I will not be surprised if Drain Cowboy is also on that Wuyang. There we go. So this should be at least an even match up backline wise, as we do start off in downtown, which you did say could be a wrecking ball map, but for both of these teams, they're going for tried and tested. You know, we've seen them all Monkey Diva matchup, and so George Sun is really just going to have to play their life and LOS because you don't want to get meltdown that.
Absolutely. And with that being said, you're right. It's a deal not to into the Winston. So with Diva coming into fray, I think George Sun can already see out. And as George is backing out, we do see the Sojourn getting rid of the Wuyang from the opposing side. So Iliad Poseidon down their Wuyang, over relying on just Batman's heals here on the Kiriko. And it's a full just kind of disengagement from Iliad Poseidon, allowing low ground main to take up the point first with Prez stabilizing on the objective. And now we should be pushing back into this Winston. George Sun right backing out once more, and it feels like low ground main once again just really stabilizing on the objective on the low ground here and not taking over the opposing high ground.
Yeah, rotating already on coast is the score of Iliad Poseidon. Optimally out to the LOS of main.
We're in there. Oh, we're in there. We're on coastline. Ooh, fighting on coast is so interesting, but it does allow high quality, or at least allows Iliad Poseidon to push off high quality. But then George Sun goes in on the dive against the Diva. The matchup very much favorable for the character, as we do see George Sun be the first one to go down, and Rambo will be the one to follow their tank. And unfortunately, it's like another complete team wipe here in favor of low ground main.
So here's part of the challenge for George Sun is, I think there isn't that coordinated dive with the Winston and the Tracer onto this core that George wants to go onto, or if it's not even that, it might just be you want your Reaper to be in with you as you jump in. So those are definitely options, but already closest to ultimate is going to be that Kiriko of Batman, and George is going to build up towards it, unless the heals are easy.
The ceiling Suzu goes crazy. Here comes the TP in from Batman with the Kissing Rush coming in from not just one, but both sides. And the pressure on Zeta actually forces a very selfish Petal Blast, but it comes to fruition. It comes out in favor of low ground main once again. Trading off the Kissing Rushes, forcing out the Tidal Blast. Great for Iliad Poseidon, though. Even though they do lose this fight, they will have at least one, maybe 1.5 more engagements before inevitably low ground main are stabilizing on the objective once again, with keeping the bomb and the overclock in the back pocket.
I mean, Diva utility is so massive. You know, the ability to eat heals is just what kind of forced out the Suzu right away from Batman in that tiny room. And so it doesn't really make the engagement of the rush on high ground just as clean, because you're not going to survive as much as before.
Oh, you hear the overclock coming from Fred. It is a different voice line because of the Mythic, but either way, it's going to be the same damage output with that headshot, taking out Drain Cowboy, and then you also remove the entire back line away from Iliad Poseidon. Bomb gets used right in the main way. We don't get the shutdown of the remix, so we're going to see high quality continue to have, again, very high quality eliminations, especially on Brisky, who has really been unable to not even really get the Death Blossom online quite yet. We do see a flip though for Iliad Poseidon very sneakily during that engagement, but at some point I'm pretty sure low ground main will be able to regroup and retake the objective with D.Va still being on the field here.
Yeah, just a few picks all in the side of low ground main, and George is forced to go back in with that wrecking ball. Maybe might turn things around, but Pulse Bomb is still alive for time.
Oh, the fight's still alive for Iliad Poseidon anyway. They get 3 for their efforts. Thankfully, with the ball swap, George comes back very quickly here to help eliminate the opposition. High quality now kind of all by themselves. No bomb for a quick, so it's just going to be the stall into overtime, into a flip for Iliad Poseidon.
I think already just from that swap, George is already at 50% for the Wrecking Ball mine, so you stick with this, and I think this might be a better choice of how to deal with the high damage that high quality D.Va has been causing. You can see that the Winston, which is getting melted so easily just with the aggression of low ground main's tank. So if you're Iliad Poseidon, maybe go for something that isn't like, I guess, weak against the high volume damage. But Blossom is online, so you're trying to just DMAC high quality here.
Oh, for sure. Either DMAC high quality or just deplete the DM in general. And I do agree with you. I think that Georgetown is doing a lot better on this ball, but I think Brisky's cooldowns are forced out a little bit too early. Pulsam goes wide, doesn't really find the value needed onto the back line, but still, with that being said, low ground main are fighting in a 5v4 in their favor. Now 5v3, taking down Drain Cowboy, taking out the Kiriko. Everyone else in the team is just there to stall until Brisky comes back with, of course, his aforementioned Death Blossom. We see the minefields get committed by George, so this could be a way to make the space reimagine from the side of the Poseidon once again. But George is so low. Does a healed up thankfully, but we're at single health points, and there's absolutely no way we're gonna be able to rip the Death Blossom without being looked at by high quality the entire time. And just for some extra damage output, there is the bomb, making sure nobody would even want to touch, let alone get a touch.
I think the Blossom might have been held for too long by Britsky, right? You are down your other DPS, both supports. You have George drop mines on the point, so you should be at least safer to kind of contest that point away from the D.Va and the Wuyang. Like, yes, you want to force out all that DM, but at the same time, I think that might have been the best shot to use your Blossom, because I think it gives George some breathing room to at least get some health packs, maybe regroup, and your team is back online and they may turn things around. But I like this Wrecking Ball from George. It seems to be doing significantly more work than the Winston. So seeing him roll out on it in Sanctuary, definitely a great move. And I think this might actually be one of the stronger Wrecking Ball points from all the sub points of Busan.
Oh yeah, you can roll through so easily here, especially on people's rotations. Especially right now, the first open rotation is always this little lane where the temple is, and you can already see George was just kind of in there, then kind of gets out. Did something saucer for a tiny bit there before inevitably we need to look at Fred a little bit more, because Fred is always getting these opening picks with the rail shot on the Sojourn, and then after that, everyone kind of starts falling over without their Soj or even their Tracer, taking down both the DPS line from Iliad Poseidon. Look, I mean, find the objective, of course, first. Once again, now are setting up on the temple.
Right, I think in this type of lineup, I would want to see this support line of Iliad Poseidon maybe stacked with one of their DPS at any given moment. George should be able to survive on his own, going around getting the packs just as needed. I think it's players like Britsky who might need that additional support or enabling, like Pred is receiving from Saucer just now. So I think that's something that Iliad may have to reconsider in terms of how they're attacking and who they're attacking with.
100%. And with that being said, Ultimate's looking fantastic for low ground main at the same time. Saucer is half behind Batman, however, in the rush back to factory. And we've also, funnily enough, Brisky finds the rail shot first into Fred, and once again, the follow-up onto the back line is there from Iliad Poseidon, especially with Georgetown kind of helping out in that regard. It's just high quality who is stalling here, 87% to the bomb, but definitely not going to be able to proc it in time, as we do see the DMAC into the elimination, trying not to allow that D.Va to stagger any longer than necessary.
I mean, at that point, you don't want to stagger the Diva if the reinforcements of Logam main are coming back. So already they are up to 3, 4.5 ults at this point for Logam main. Iliad Poseidon also going to be there quite soon. Just Britsky being a bit behind on the Sojourn charge, having died first in the first fight, but mines are dropped to deny, or at least slow down the push of Logam main.
I mean, it's right in their spawn area. They can't get through. We have Pred also using the overclock here as well. But no one's there to really find the bad half of the railgun. So it leaves Pred pretty naked to Batman's headshot. Whoa! What a pick from the Kiriko coming from Iliad Poseidon, allowing another, pretty much a fight to bleed into another one. Here's the dive onto the backline, forcing the DM, forcing Saucer to use all the cooldowns in the world. And there goes the rest of the team now regrouping from Iliad Poseidon for this next reapproach, or this next fight.
Yes, this is where Wrecking Ball can get oppressive with the team when you finally have all the angles under your control and they're just moving as a core, because now it's going to get chaotic and they can just roll through and get massive charges.
Well, here comes the Power Blast coming through. Suzu used defensively from Saucer here. String Cowboy doesn't really find too much, but I think the stun that comes onto Pred there, we find the destructive orbital, or the destructive area does find Pred at the end of the day. And it's a lot of trade-offs. Red and blue in that kill feed. Now looking towards that back line is both the Tracer and the ball. Funnily enough, going to trade off the Kiriko for the Wuyang. Unfortunately, I do think there's a little bit more numbers on board here for Go Grommet, especially with high quality hashtag bomb. So the remake can definitely come to fruition. Pulse Bomb does get used on the floor, so the famous floor Pulse Bomb will be used. Recall used extremely defensively from Rambao. And of course, there goes Kind. There goes the Pulse Bomb onto the Baby Diva, which shuts down a remake. What a beautiful, beautiful reapproach from Rambao, who is just completely running the course.
Yep, and there should be at least a clean turnaround for Iliad Poseidon. Just a few staggers from the remaining supports of Logam main, and it really isn't enough. But what a turnaround from Iliad Poseidon! And you can see now they made some of those swaps. There is definitely a better understanding of how to run this Wrecking Ball Tracer with, you know, the Wuyang stacked with, I guess, that Tracer and Ball on one side, and then your Kiri and Soj are on another. And I think that's what I wanted to see more from Iliad Poseidon, and they managed to do it very well on Sanctuary. But Wrecking Ball on Mecha Base, a whole different, more difficult ordeal, because there really isn't any natural cover on the main point that you can find. Only those, you know, walls that go up and down every once in a while. That high ground is still very oppressive. So I think this might be where the value of a Wrecking Ball and how well Iliad Poseidon can play it is going to be put to the test.
100%. And this is kind of where I was just kind of thinking we might need to see some swaps coming through. Georgia's still on this ball, of course, so not going to see that be a change factor for Iliad Poseidon. We are seeing their Risk instead. That Sphere really good to disrupt these pile drivers from the Roadhog. Wow, that is trauma. That's the pile drivers from the Wrecking Ball. But credit on this newly found Cassidy. We find the first elimination onto Britsky, but as Cassidy, you are the target for this Tracer, for this ball to synchronize and get rid of the Cassidy at the same time. We are seeing, again, a lot of trade-offs. We trade both Kirikos for each other, and I think Drain Cowboy is still in the fight. We do lose out on Zeta, however, so Iliad Poseidon have now completely shifted the momentum, shifted the gears. Things are turning around for them very nicely. So fight is still being contested on the actual objective here, but there goes Pred once again, being looked at from all angles, but it's going to be the reversal coming through from the Wuyang onto Rambao, shutting down the Tracer completely. And now, without really a touch coming through, Team Low Ground Main finding that first point under their belts.
Yeah, but Arvin being building with that mines should have that online quite soon. For Low Ground Main, though, you have the best benefit of your Kiriko being on in the lead with the ult charge, but a spear onto the Wrecking Ball forces George out, especially finalize that stun from Pred.
100%. Oh, we are just completely in their spawn area. There goes 3 down. It's a full reset here for Iliad Poseidon. They can't do anything with the newly found Manfield now, but now they can start thinking about it for the next fight.
Yeah, I think this swap from Pred to a Cassidy is very critical for them to deal with George, and already getting some value.
Oh, for sure. Manfield used right. Get away from me! Oh my god.
That's how you win the game!
I'm not in the game. I'm sorry. I get so into it. Oh my goodness. I've been there. But Big opening picks coming in favor of Iliad Poseidon. 1 goes down, 2 goes down, 3 going down. Now just the humble soccer point from High Quality is what they're using to stay alive. Wait a little bit longer to bait out 61% in favor of low ground main. Now we can start holding close with these pretty big ultimates online here for Batman and Drain Cowboy.
The three shots sounds like Widow scoped in shots, and I think for Iliad you might have to be a bit more aggressive with your plays down. They're doing just that.
We're going to play Tidal Blast. We see a little of the eye destruction, but we do see Kind coming with the Dragon Blade at the same time. Does it find anyone though? No, it's Salsa actually getting the one up onto Batman with the melee kill after the fact, and now there is also a full, just retreat coming in from Iliad Poseidon. That's really just resulting in a lot of these eliminations in favor of low ground main, finding a couple of staggered kills, especially onto the Wu Yang, and Fred actually commits the Deadeye in the face of that wrecking ball. Ideally, George Sun should be able to get out with just being how speedy you are, but otherwise, what a commitment from Fred there.
I think High Noon is cosmetic one way or another, right? You kind of pop it, hoping to get some value, but hey, you're bothering the support line of low ground main.
Oh, Hinder could have gone a lot worse. Just going down to just shy of 50 HP is the wrecking ball, but we get the health packs back. We're good to go, but Fred is still going to find something. It's me one, if not both, of the backliners. We go for the Death Blossom in the face of a spear, still off cooldown. So boom, it's a complete shutdown coming in from Iliad Poseidon. They are not going to be able to find anything. Terror Surge used for funsies, and Rambow kind of just falls right into it, getting that elimination. We're in overtime. I didn't even notice. It's a 2-1 win here for low ground main. What a reversal from what we had seen, or how weak they really felt on round 2. What a response. They're up in the board right now. They're up a point, looking real good.
And I think you'd have to commend low ground main for adjusting how they want to play, and we get to have a sneak peek at the latest skin drop by Overwatch, the collaboration with Persona, and just well-deserved from this, I guess, team of Iliad Poseidon, who did turn things around in that second point. But back to low ground main, they understood how Iliad Poseidon wanted to run the composition that they were running, and they did it so well by swapping to the key characters. You switch over to the Cassidy, you switch over to an Orisa, and then you have that Genji that could just go in the face of the backline of Iliad. So they were struggling to just stay alive and really keep that point pressure, because there really is no point pressure in the composition that Iliad Poseidon has. You're relying on trades.
Oh, 100%. You are relying on just a lot of individualistic plays and not too much on, especially with like a ball composition tracer, all that jazz. You're relying on just kind of everyone doing their own thing, because everyone can do their own thing and everyone can get out very safely. Everyone can kind of just go wherever they want. And I think, again, if it comes down to some of the swaps made from low ground main, like the Orisa, for example, the Cassidy, they work so well together, and they also work well to disrupt those individual plays that you're seeing from the Wrecking Ball, that you're seeing from the Tracer or like Injure, whoever they're on. So with that being said, Iliad Poseidon will have not only the map pick, but they also have the choice of either banning first or second. That is what they get, and of course most teams are going to want to ban first. So like, come on now, like, let's be so serious. So with that being said, I think the map pool is very much open. A lot of things are, on deck here, and if they want to continue to try to run this ball, I wouldn't be surprised if we did see more like a Dorado. You see, hold on, I'm not trolling everybody. Yeah, we might see a Dorado come out. We might see them also want to maybe experiment on a push map, maybe a Coliseum, maybe Runasapi, for example. We could also just mitigate a hybrid. Let's say this is the forward thinking I think about. Let's say we go Hollywood, or let's say we go Blizzard World to mitigate the chance of low ground main forcing a brawl map like Kings Row in the future. That could also be a really good smart option if you want to make sure they cannot play this Orisa composition. But I think this is the one that was the most kind of in favor of low ground main, was the fact that they couldn't do anything against Orisa, and they know that that's a very obvious composition that can really go against the ball comp. So that's my idea. That's my cookage for the stream.
So to jump further on the cooking you're doing over there, Mon,
please, I love seasoning.
Look, seasoning, perfect. If you actually give the chance for low ground main to decide which map to go to, and they want to go to a hybrid, and they decide to go Kings Row, you also have just the complete power to just say, now we're gonna ban the Orisa. And if you're a really solid team that knows how to play Wrecking Ball, we've seen people play Wrecking Ball in King's Row. Not the most ideal, but really good ball players know how to be oppressive in the map. And with the rework, the seasons and seasons of Wrecking Ball, where you could just grapple and pull yourself up, you don't really need the whole momentum swing anymore. It just allows for so many more plays as Wrecking Ball on the map, but it seems like we're going to Surabasa instead. And I still think this is a map that maybe Wrecking Ball could still have some playtime in if Iliad Poseidon want to continue that route. It's also still a really solidly brawl type of map, so it's in the favor of low ground main. One way or another, it's a flashpoint map. It's a map where you can walk in with any type of composition and it's somehow going to work.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, you can walk in with so many options. And that's the scary part about going to a Surabasa specifically, is because the bans can also be so open. Because, yeah, you can ban Arista, and then you're going to see maybe a Hazard, maybe you're going to see Winston, you're going to see JQ instead. Like, you can see Zarya also, now that she is no longer a ban option, I believe, for low ground main. There's a lot of different varieties, a lot of different walks of life that Surabasa does offer for a lot of teams. And clearly, low ground main, they love playing variety of positions. They are okay with doing so. Iliad Poseidon, they want to play something that's a lot more divey. They want to play that ball. They want to play something that's there to annoy and disrupt. So I feel like that kind of, to be fair, that was only map 1. I can't talk too much, but the lack of flexibility, even from round 1, makes me think maybe a more targeted ban on Iliad Poseidon might hurt a little bit more than it would on low ground main.
Oh, 100%. So I think if you're Iliad Poseidon, right, you may have just opted to be the first one to ban more than anything because you want to protect maybe a certain type of composition or character as you walk into Surabasa, right? I think if you are a team that has a not so flexible hero pool, you might as well just forego being able to pick maps and just learn how to play different, or your comfort picks or your key characters in different map types.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I love Surabasa because a lot of teams just like, they just do a lot. You'll see one comp in the first half of Surabasa and they all swap to something completely different. Like I just see some of the most competitions of all time, I think, on Surabasa, and for good reason. There's a lot of variety in the map types or the point types, and there's ruins that's so enclosed. There's also, then you have like marketplace, which is also very enclosed, but you have something like gardens that's a little more open. Like it's one of my favorites. But we finally have our bans ready. Let's get into the ban screen, talk about exactly what Iliad Poseidon are going to want to ban out first here. And again, very open. It is Surabasa. It is something that I feel like you're going to a team that is very open with what they want to play. So these bans have to be targeted. I think Lucio ban was fantastic, but we might do something on the same breath of maybe a Wu Yang or a Kiriko ban that can kind of spice things up like even further.
But I think in that kind of scenario, you want to like shoot yourself in the foot kind of scenario. But already we are seeing a ban from Iliad Poseidon, which is a Genji. Disregard the low ground main logo ?
Yes.
Yes, because the Genji ban is from Iliad, and I think that is a direct response from how well Kind has been doing on the Genji. And let's be clear, Kind will find ways to deal damage and to deal some carrying on the Genji, but on the other side, low ground main are banning that Hazard, so it's been a set of, I think, tank bans from... Oh. Am I
Hazard.
confused?
No, low ground main did ban Zarya round 1, yes. And then Iliad Poseidon just now banned Hazard. Yeah. They didn't ban Zarya first round. Lucio came in from Iliad Poseidon earlier. I remember because they were the second ban, and I was like, oh my god, Lucio second ban, it's crazy. That's the only reason I remember. But yeah, we have the Hazard and the Genji ban coming in from low ground main and Iliad Poseidon. And you mentioned it perfectly. I think the Genji ban is a really good target ban coming in. And with Iliad Poseidon coming up on the... Yeah, there we go. They're swapping it around.
I'm sorry. Like,
you are right.
That's why I was
You
like,
are right.
that's why I was like confused. Like, Obviously, audience
You're right.
doesn't see me, but my head really tilted towards one side when.
Wait, you are right. I was like, that's my bad. No, we're good. We're good. We got it. Okay, no, you're right. They are very focused on these tank bans. And
Yeah, it's been a tank ban
good reason.
lineup for low ground main, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's because maybe they're protecting the specific tank that they want to run, and at the same time, it might just be they have an idea of what Iliad Poseidon prefers comfortably to run in certain maps.
yeah, for sure. And again, with this Genji ban, as I was saying, like it's a very good target ban coming in from not low ground main, from Iliad Poseidon. It's to low ground main. And with that being said, I still think there's a lot of supplemental, pressure. I feel like Tracer was a little bit more impactful. That she can definitely kind of supplement what Genji is lacking, especially being banned out on Survasa. Hazard I like just because it's a pretty consistent good ban, and you can kind of continue to play ball. You can continue to play a lot of tanks that don't exactly care about Hazard. So with that being said, let's go over to the head-to-head, see exactly if there's any swaps. I don't think there are, but we will see in just a couple of seconds. And yes, there is. Oh, it's my
Oh, Swag Daddy's back.
Swag Daddy 69, ladies and gentlemen. I'm tuned in. My eyes are wide open. We have Swag Daddy in the back line. Torbjorn, so proud of you becoming a support, but not today, bestie. Today, we're gonna see what Swag Daddy brings to the table.
Look, this is bound to happen, at least from the side of low ground main. They have a lineup of 3 supports. So, in that kind of scenario, who comes into play and who doesn't is really more of what's the flavor of the map, and somehow the flavor this time around happens to be swag and swagging out, and that's what low ground main is hopefully planning to do by bringing us to Surabasa. Yes.
I was just watching. I was looking at this alligator, and I was like, I don't know if he looked broken. Oh, he's gonna do it again. Look at this. That's huge. I don't know if they go that big, but either way. As someone that lived in Florida for multiple years of my life and has been to Gatorland of all places multiple times in my life, quite big. Just gotta say that. But either way, we have the Arista coming out in that spawn room for low ground main. Damn it! We have the Zara coming out from George Sud. We have Zara and Reaper together from Iliad Poseidon. I think that's gonna have a lot of value, especially on something so close like Marketplace.
I mean, especially now that they have the Zarya back, so the Dirty Bubble setup is going to be leaning in their favor, and as expected, it's a Kiri Lucio type of lineup, because what else are we supposed to be playing in a map like Surabasa? And I think low ground main would rather have this matchup than, forcing a Wuyang kind of composition with a Kiri.
Yo, it's just the jumping that I just watched George Sun have. You saw, the other team, the Poseidon was trying to, go for a little bit of a flank angle, but George Sun didn't have the speed boost or anything from Drain Cowboy, so everyone just kind of walked on him, and like you mentioned, why not play? You need to play the Lucio and the Kiri, because guess what? You need a speed boost available for this map, and you also have the Sombra coming out from Kind, funnily enough, and that already has been a big difference that Iliad Poseidon need to figure out how to deal with.
Yep, Batman saving his respective KP, managed to regroup, and I think if you are Iliad Poseidon, this is a lot of really just going on to one target and really burning it down, because you aren't as much of a mobile composition as compared to Ragame.
Yeah, and you need to really rely on Brinsky to actually go in and force and make sure you use your bubbles who get that charge. George Sun, unfortunately, just can't really get charge going. We do see a little bit of that point being contested by the Tracer from Iliad Poseidon, but it's not going to really work out too much because Batman is being looked at by all angles, especially by Swag Daddy, who is on top of this Tracer, like right on rice. Here's the bubble. It gives so much. You know how much that was? Gave him like 40 charge for free, and now 2 go down, however, unfortunately, against Iliad Poseidon. Just using the continuum from Batman, it caught the response of the terror surge, and it was a complete shutdown from high quality. What a response, what a hold. Oh, and they're gonna even get the point on top of that.
Yeah, no, this should be a quick turnover for low ground main. If you're Iliad Poseidon, you might as well just fight for the next point, which happens to at least be closer to you. Yes, we are correct. It happens to be closer to them, so they could already set up on this point. They have a pulse bomb, no other ultimates to work with, so it's going to be a rough fight. They're going to have to defend out into all this high damage.
Yeah, they're on tempo right now, and you see the overclock array get used from Pred early on. The rest of the team is already starting things off to start the fight on the coastline of all things. A little bit of a Georgetown looking very low on that health pool, and of course going to be called up by high quality. The tanks have been traded off effectively, however. EMP is online for Kind, so this could completely turn the fight around again in favor of low ground main, but we still have the force of Frisky to deal with, and we're going to disengage instead for the second, and then re-engage with our own sound barrier coming through from low ground main. Drain Cowboy just barely able to build up theirs right after the fact, but not able to really proc it fast enough for Iliad Poseidon to not only stall, but also at least wait for everyone else to come back. Besides then, Georgetown has now come back, but again, there's no one else to help supplement after losing out on Batman and Drain Cowboy. Oh wait, hold on, Batman. Batman here to save the day. Chill. Might be absolute right now.
There's no absolute when you have Batman just, you know, being there to save the day and something's over. And if you are Iliad Poseidon, you will take that because you forced out what is essentially 3 ultimates from low ground main for them to only get 17%, while you are going to have 4 walking into this next engagement. So if I am Iliad Poseidon, I do not use all 4.
Oh, for sure.
Oh no, I use all 4. And they're gonna use all 4 because I said not to use all 4.
No, here comes Blossom. That's 2. We're 2 for 2 so far right now. No kills though. We're 0 for kills. The EMP comes out from Kind. That's 3. And there's 4. Hold on. I need 4 from Iliad Poseidon to make it. Oh, there it is. You did it. Thor, you did it. There's the 4 ultimates. And you know what? If it's to win the fight, if it's to keep the point in our favor, why not? You already know they don't have EMP. You know they don't have sound barrier. You know all they have is the upcoming Terror Surge, which you are going to have a response of the Senior Rush coming in from Batman anyway. This arguably not the worst usage of 4 ultimates at once I've ever seen.
Okay. I will agree with that analysis to an extent, but let's all remember in that previous point who wins between a Terror Surge and Kiriko Rush. It happens to be the Terror Surge. So, are we going to have that again? Good question, but already forcing out the bubbles of Georgetown. It's high quality, yeah.
Oh man, you are a good call on that, because yeah, Georgetown bubbles they get used so quickly against that Terror Surge, and we're also gonna layer the Continued Rush from Swag Daddy on top of that. So I would say a little bit more of an overinvestment from low ground main in that sense, but if you're able to get the fight back in your favor and you can at least stall to 99, I think it's fine.
Yep. I agree with that, and you luckily enough lost your Kiriko before your Kiriko even got ultimate. So saving grace is you have that for the re-engagement. Low ground main only has this overclock, so if I am Iliad Poseidon, you're definitely opening up with maybe this rush or looking for a pulse bomb stick on the thread because that would be massive. That's a nice overclock.
Oh, we're gonna see the overclock instead. Even, you know, unfortunately not getting pulsed out, but we do see Batman's Continued Rush coming in, so the respect of the space has been made away from low ground main, not wanting to re-engage during the rush or in the middle of the rush, but they were able to at least find Rambo still kind of lacking around and shut down by Kind on this Tracer. Now we can see a 4v5 in favor of low ground main that they're going to be continuously going towards. We're seeing a slight flank from Kind onto the back line. Georgetown does get called out because guess what? The Kiriko was distracted by this Tracer, as is your job. And with just the overclock in favor of low ground main, they cap the point. They're 2 up right now. And now what do you do if you're Iliad Poseidon now that you're forced into a reverse 3-0 on Sorvasa? What do you do?
What you do is you build up towards your Graviton Surge because that's probably what you want to walk in with this. If you are Rambo, your number 1 target for that pulse bomb has to be that Lucio right now because you know they're going to have beat. You want that massive ultimate to be out of the game when your Zara decides to pop Graviton Surge or even when you decide to pop Blossom.
100%, and you're walking into Garden with, you know, you're with 2 pretty good ultimates for low ground main, the pulse bomb as you mentioned earlier, and of course a sound barrier as well. But the grab comes in and it's gonna be connected with the pulse bomb and it finds nothing. Oh, you hate to see it if you're Kind, but either way, it's still gonna be a cleanup of the ages from Kind. Anyway, 1, 2, and 3 go down, 4 go down in favor of Kind. My goodness, this Tracer needs to be stopped. No Genji, no problem.
Yeah, they're going against their namesake whenever playing against some of these teams, but already they are having 3 ultimates into this defense. Iliad Poseidon will have to still find some value maybe with this Reaper Blossom, and I think your answer to that really is if you could force out the Suzu right away of Swag Daddy, that just might be it.
Well, there's Suzu being forced out, as you predicted, just coming in from that dive of the Winston. Georgia finds Pred, and here's the Blossom. Find 1. Pulse Bomb will be the end all be all for Britsky, but thankfully Britsky got the value needed anyway, so we're all good. Territory's fine, really not too much. Tiny bit of the perimeter damage onto the side of Iliad Poseidon, but otherwise no true downs quite yet. Besides high quality, finally stalling enough for 85% before inevitably we go back to spawn room and we get a flip.
Well, this is going to be a tough hill to climb for Iliad Poseidon, right? You need to be winning these next set of fights, and you're going to have Kiriko rush into this. So this is going to be a Kiryu v Kiryu scenario, and if you're a Rambo, you're just trying to find value with the squalls.
I mean, Rush already forced out relatively early. I love it. So that in that sense, you make that space once again happen in favor of Iliad Poseidon, but no one's playing in it, meaning that Kind find a way around, and we are going to get the first elimination onto Britsky. And with that being said, like, guess what? We're re-engaging with our own Kitsune Rush. This is going to be enough at least to help Willow main not only clean up the back line, but also clean up the front line. There goes George, taken down by the wayside. We get a quick flip here, 87%, 10% left to go. I'm not entirely confident it's going to be a touch here unless Rambo finds a way, but recall rate forced out from the Tracer. There's no way they touch. Absolutely not. 3-0 here for low ground main. Already match points in the series.
Yep, and that was one of the few times where you could see a team actually be very calculating with how they re-engage onto point. Low ground main forcing out the ultimates of Iliad Poseidon very early, and Iliad Poseidon not getting anything with it is forced to kite back out into what is the, Uno reverse card of ultimates from low ground main. And for low ground main, they just get even more value from their ultimates. That's team to worry between these two teams. Yes, there are signs of light from Iliad Poseidon in terms of what compositions that they were running and how they were executing them, right? Some of them really calculated and definitely necessary ultimates to turn over a fight, but at the end of the day, there are some fights where the ultimates didn't get value, and that hurt them more than it should.
Yeah, 1000%. It kind of just comes down to, as you said, that ult value and how well you can use those ults, maintain your positioning even better. What I love from low ground main was that they were so good at disengaging quickly and then re-engaging with a rush, for example, or an overclock, or even just having the respect of, you're gonna have that space, we can still at least out angle you with an overclock as well, or even just have Kind on a flank. And with that being said, it was just a fantastic showing from low ground main once more. 3-0, but Iliad Poseidon had a fight. They had a great Zarya comp for a little bit there. There were definitely some tougher moments, especially on tempo, where they were so even. So even though they are down 0-2, this is not any sort of scenario where they are being completely trampled over. They're keeping it pretty competitive. They're keeping low ground main on their toes, and I'm gonna keep you guys on your toes because we're going to a very quick break before map 3. We'll see you guys on the other side of this break. And we're back after that very quick little break. We're getting into this map number 3. We have Iliad Poseidon on the verge of being super upset of 03, but this is their map choice. Is also the option of choosing their ban first, as well as we go into our map 3. Low ground main once again showcasing their proficiency at many composition from the Orisa over to just everything. Honestly, Diva as well as also something we saw earlier. So they have, I mean, they kind of have it almost in the bag, you know. But that's neither here nor there. It all can depend on where we go next from Iliad Poseidon, maybe exhausting a push option like Esperanza. So not going to be the Runosapi, not going to be, what's the other ones? Runosapi, Coliseo.
There you go.
Forgot about her for a second. It's going to be Esperanza coming in here. I can't wait to see what they bring out here.
Look, as long as the available push maps are, I think, all of them. So, at this point, Esperanza probably the best one if you do want to stick to that brawl style. I think if you are Iliad Poseidon and you want to bring out that wrecking ball, still also viable option on Esperanza. I think also, so in that kind of situation, it is more of a chance for Iliad Poseidon to kind of get their bearings and figure out, I guess, the way they want to push in and out of fights, because we saw them do well in retaking points with this Zarya Reaper composition. We know they can win fights. It's a matter of, okay, once they get to actually having to defend what they've taken, that's where it kind of the pieces fall into the wayside, right? The spaghetti just gets spilled everywhere. There's not really much of a defense being held up, and I think that's something Iliad Poseidon have to take into consideration once they walk into Esperanza, considering the bot constantly moves.
Yeah, for sure. And I also like Esperanza because it does give an opportunity for Iliad Poseidon to continue to play ball here. A very popular one for ball in the first place. And if they ban first, they can also go for a protection ban, like, for example, banning out Orisa as just like a throw out option for the side of Iliad Poseidon. Looks like, from what I understand, they actually allowed low ground main to go for the first ban. So looks like low ground main will be banning first, and that gives them the opportunity to actually ban. Oh, okay, no, just got word that is incorrect. It is Iliad Poseidon coming in for the first ban. Ignore the top. Iliad Poseidon, like I said, they can go for a tank protection here, go for an Orisa ban, and keep the ball safe. And this does open the opportunity for low ground main to, like, maybe just go Cassie, maybe go Sombra, maybe go a lot of these other anti-ball characters. But at least there won't be a big old horse negating you from pile drivers with her spear and her javelin spin and everything like that.
And I think it's just the sheer point presence that Orisa has, right? The tankiness from the armor and even the ability to stun. So you'd want that out of the game if you want to play Wrecking Ball. But at least from what we are waiting for is the decision of Iliad Poseidon, and I think they're going for a Sojourn ban, which I think is also a decently good ban to do on Esperanza, just because there are so many high grounds, and one in the area where the first butt scratch always happens is squished in between two high grounds, so it gets very difficult to just retake even the bot from the low ground without being peppered all the damage in. And consistent to their tank bans for the night, low ground main have decided that they just want to lock this in. They don't want to give Iliad Poseidon any reason to make a comeback of sorts. So let's remove what has been working for this team, and that happens to be the Wrecking Ball, right? On one of the few times where Iliad Poseidon actually took a whole map point from low ground main was when they were running that Wrecking Ball in Busan in Sanctuary, right? So low ground main knows that this team can get value on a Wrecking Ball, so why not remove it so that they could just shut this down in a 3-0 fashion?
This is so unfortunate. This is so unfortunate, I would say, for Iliad Poseidon, because I do think this is one of the better ball maps to play ball. I think it's most consistent when you'll see ball players really just kind of whip out the pocket ball and just kind of go crazy, right? But Either way, with that being banned out, Low Ground Main are looking very, very good with their continuing roster from last series. So last map, we're gonna continue to see Swag Daddy 69 on that backline on the Kiriko, likely, of course. And the Iliad Poseidon sticking with their main 5 roster of Rambao, Brisky, George, Drain Cowboy, and Batman. Let's go into Esperanza to see exactly what Iliad Poseidon are going to cook here, even without the ball. I do think we might just see... I mean, we could just see Winston coming out. A dive of some sort, I think, is kind of what I'm itching towards with Iliad Poseidon, with the lack of a ball. But otherwise, it could go anyway. We did see these guys take off 1 round off of Low Ground Main, so they can bleed. Low Ground Main can, in fact, be dealt with. It's just how do you deal with this DPS line?
I mean, exactly. And I think you have to take into account before walking into this match, the matchup that Low Ground Main had to play last week was against the Fallen, and that was a reverse sweep 3-2 in their favor. So they are not perfect, right? They definitely are a team that knows how to play extremely well in terms of ebb and flow. We saw this time and again in Suravasa. It now becomes a question of if you as a team, as the opposing team, can work that same ebb and flow in your favor, because the moment you're able to ebb and flow really well against each other, then it just really becomes a matchup of skill. It just becomes a matchup then of mechanics at that point. And so that's when you know, at least as a team, that you understand what you're playing very well.
I love that you keep mentioning ebb and flow, like we don't have 2 Wuyongs on here. I see you were doing, and I raised you the Wuyong coming in from Cowboy and from Swag Daddy. Love the perspective. Actually, I've always loved the perspective from the servers, and I think it's so snazzy. Either way, Pred comes in with a beautiful headshot shutdown onto Rambao, and of course, that's just kind of the Cassidy and what you offer on the character here. And with that being said, Brisky also going very low, forcing, I think just forcing out the Wraith form relatively early from the Reaper player. And now the point is already in favor of, or the bot, excuse me, is already moving in favor of Low Ground Main, giving them a good amount of meterage to work with. But we have George Sun on the Zarya. This is putting a lot of pressure onto the backline, especially these secondary fires. And otherwise, it doesn't matter the fact that you're losing Brisky from teleporting to the backline, gets completely sought out by Saucer. And then you also lose Rambao, who does trade off for Pred, but the pressure is definitely in favor of Low Ground Main, and they are really just racking it up against Iliad Poseidon.
Yep, and here's the nice thing about it, right? You see Britsky TPing to the back, and it's a collective turn from both supports of Low Ground Main, so that the moment both of them just put even some amount of damage, Britsky is lower gone, right? Like, yes, we saw Swag Daddy hit one of those damage primaries on Britsky, but the follow-up from Saucer was just there. So great job on just these Low Ground Main backline supports just really turning together to get the trades, and that's how the game really is.
Oh, for sure. And again, Saucer always scouting out this Reaper, always shutting him down with these kunai shots right to the noggin. And Saucer once again doing it once more onto their mirror match. And there goes a good. We lose Swag Daddy, but you're on Wuyong. You have that super speedy secondary to come back with, so not too much of a loss. We do have the continued rushes that will be traded off here for the next fight, ideally down this nice long lane, but otherwise, Low Ground Main looking fantastic so far.
Low Ground Main also with 4 ultimates, make that 5 soon. So I think this is going to be a bunch of ultimates for a back and forth. So we're probably going to be seeing at most maybe 8.
Oh, well, there's one out of 8. Oh, shut down. Okay. There's 2, 3 on deck here for the Casino Rush from the opposition. We get the stun onto George, and the subsequent elimination comes in from Low Ground Main. Now we're going to continue that momentum with this Casino Rush down the backside, mind you. Don't know how this happened, but the fight has completely flipped over, and Low Ground Main is still getting a lot of card progression while we're still fighting this initial previous fight. And now we're seeing a little bit of a regroup here from Low Ground Main, kind of itching towards should we back up or go main again, or should we regain the cart? We're gonna regain the cart. We're gonna charge up the Zarya, who has Graviton Surge, but there's 2 bubbles down. There goes the elimination. Ooh, trade off for Kind, and Britsky, the Pulsam committed onto the Rissa. I saw George's health pool go so low with no bubbles, and I thought the worst immediately. But that's because they were masters and I'm not. What a clean reversal from Iliad Poseidon.
That was 8.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
okay,
I lost count.
it was 6 plus 2. So Zogram main popped 5. While Iliad only had popped 1. And then, for the retake, Iliad popped the other 2 because, well, they were up ultimates. So for Zogram main, definitely in their favor, at least in this next push, because somehow Pred is back to high noon.
Unfortunately, there's no Wuyong here, and no title block on top of that. So that he has gone off of the Wuyong mirror, no longer honoring it, going over to the tried and true Lucio once more. Britsky, as always, just completely getting shut down continuously by the side of Logrande. And I feel like I'm worried that we might see a repeat of round 1, where you never got the chance to use Blossom.
Yeah, I think there is a... I think if you are Britsky, you might as well just... the Suzu's only there for a brief moment of time, right? At that point, you really just have to ask your Zarya, hey, save a bubble for me, let's go. Because that's really the only way you're gonna get value from a Blossom.
Oh, Surge comes on in the response of the continued rush. Big charge on George Sun. We gotta be worried about this Blossom because there's gonna be proc here, but no one, I mean, nobody. The area has been cleared. The area was cleared. Pred is coming back with 2K under, just with the Cassidy. 3 from Kind with the dash onto Batman, and now it's just a matter of cleaning up for low ground main as effectively as they can possibly do so. Just need to get rid of this other Genji from Rambao, and there it is, coming in with the Javelin spin. 5 minutes less, under that in fact, and we're already at the tail end of Esperanza.
You're about to say Runa Sapi, we have 3
I was,
low ground main, and I think if you are low ground main, you commit probably maybe that Kirito rush for that blade, right? Save the bot, save the beat, maybe for his incoming a Grabthunk surge and title blast.
Title blast to be used here from Drain Cowboy as you predicted, but the Dragon Blade will be used in response, or actually in supplement with their own sound barrier, giving Kind so much extra kind of sustainability through this engagement, especially into the face of a very high-guard Zarya. Here comes the grab. The slight shield does actually come through and peaks in enough to keep the team alive and away from the extra pressure from the Zarya. The car is now, I mean the bot is now pushed up pretty much to the very last 2 or 3 meters away from completion. Kainu comes in just to make them stall distance. Drain Cowboy cannot go anywhere. You're behind the barricade. You go right, there's a Deadeye. You go left, there's a Deadeye. We have the Doomfist coming out to play. Britsy once again cannot stay alive any longer, and George is just doing their absolute best. Suzu forces George to go right through the Orisa, and just like that, it's a last bit of stall, a last bit of staggering in. The blade is hopeful, if not anything else, and it's gonna be low grounding with a full completion of Esperanza and a 3-0 in the record.
Oh, that's a very clean push from low ground main, and I think as much as you have star players from Iliad Poseidon who was doing work like the Kirito of Batman, it seems like there wasn't as much maybe that coordination you want between your Zarya and your Reaper, and I think that's something that Iliad Poseidon may need to take a look at when they go through their VODs on how to improve this composition that they're running, because it seems like they have an idea of how they want to do it. I think it's just not being executed as cleanly because maybe of how far the Reaper's TPing out of the LOS of Zarya and so forth.
Yeah, it just felt like the momentum, they never got their opportunity to, I guess, capitalize on maybe when they were getting opening picks, maybe when they were getting reversals, because there were times where they were down 2, then they get 2 off the other team, but then they were unable to really fall in with that. They were unable to build up on that after the fact, and then suddenly this Orisa is in my face, I'm getting speared, there's a Kiriko headshotting my Reaper in the back line, now he's dead. It's just like, they were never really able to move the momentum back in their favor, except for that very one time where we got the bout back to the neutral position in the very center of Esperanza, and after that, it was just a complete retake. The Lucio top coming in from Swag Daddy was, I think, the most impactful, to keep the speed boost online, because at that point, you were also outspeeding Iliad Poseidon. There was nothing else they could really do besides try to hard stabilize, and they just weren't able to have the opportunity to do so. But with that being said, 3-0 in favor of low ground main. Very, very good, clean week 3 win for them. And in a really good fashion, I would say this is the only map I would imagine that was the most one-sided. That was between the other 2 we casted. I think that those 2 were a lot more back and forth. This one was very much like momentum was just slipping away from Iliad Poseidon, and they were unable to catch their breath and regain it.
Oh, absolutely right, Mod. The other 2 maps we did see the signs of brilliance from Iliad Poseidon, and I think that's something they need to take also with them when they take a look at how this matchup went, because you could see that they can do well, and that's something they also should shine at. Like, how can we replicate this in our future matchups? So that's something you walk into with this type of matchup against low ground main. But for low ground main, who's been a mainstay at this Masters tier, they did finish third place last season. Really are showing that maybe we take the first place title this time around. Maybe that's something they want to go for.
Oh, that's definitely their goal, especially the third place finish last season in playoffs. I mean, they're a fantastic team, and the division they were playing in was there was a lot of hard hitters in last season's Masters tier as well. But we're gonna get our interview set up, of course, as always, a CGL Classic. So we're gonna go to a very quick break, get our interviewee set up and ready to go, and then we're gonna close out the stream. Have a good one. Well, not have a good one. We'll see you in a couple minutes for this break. And we're back after a beautiful 3-0 series from Low Ground Main. We have two, not just one, but two interviewees, of course, to come yap with us about that series and how they're feeling. We got Kind, we got Swag Daddy 69 on deck here. Guys, a little something light, as we were talking about. How's it feel? You know, going pretty undefeated so far in the season 16 of CGL.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it just sort of first map was a little shaky, but we got through it.
It was pretty good, you know. We still got a lot more games to play, but so far I'm pretty confident.
Oh, definitely. If there's one thing we did see from today's match was the confidence that grew over the course of the match, but I know the team came from a very tight matchup from last week, a reverse sweep 3-2 in your favor. So was there anything from that last week's matchup that you carried into this current match?
I don't know if he cared anything specific. I do know that we definitely had a talk about like mentals and making sure that is like you don't boom in the middle of the match and you don't overreact one way or the other. Just sort of keeping a level head and making every map feel like it's 0-0.
Yeah, and I think that like part of it from like last match that we like subconsciously carried was like calling like shot calling earlier and like trying to figure out who we're going on before we're actually like in the middle of the fight, because that was something like those first two maps last time that we struggled with heavy was like we'd be in a fight and everybody's calling out somebody different to jump on, and we just kind of like split and got rolled. But I think we figured that out pretty well. We got it locked down.
Oh, definitely. We did see some of those moments. I know for a fact whenever the Reaper of Iliad would go to the back, I saw both supports just immediately turn around and melt him, do nothing. So that's just a great job on your part. So Mott, do you have other questions?
Oh yeah. I mean, as a couple. So, for example, on Esperanza, we were kind of expecting them to protect a ball ban by maybe banning out the Orisa coming in from you guys, and that didn't happen. Clearly, they actually banned out the Sojourn, and of course, your immediate response: how did it feel? You know, knowing that they didn't protect their ball, they didn't protect ball on a map that maybe would have worked better. And you guys had the opportunity to do so. Did you guys feel a sense of relief, maybe, you know, going into Esperanza, being able to ban out ball before it could have even been a problem?
It was actually really funny because we saw the bans come through in lobby screen, and then immediately Pred just goes, oh wait, they didn't ban tank, go ban ball immediately, just ban ball, and then yeah, so it was definitely like a little bit of relief, but I wouldn't say like we thought it would impact it too much since we already played against the ball and it didn't go so well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a little round loss. I saw that. But
Wow.
still, like you know, as Thor said, you guys really did bring it back. You guys are really, first of all, again, talking about the mental, really well done. Just not kind of booming to the ball comp as, you know, a lot of other players would do. A lot of other teams kind of default towards, you know, oh, ball, whatever, right? But otherwise, you know, you guys did absolutely fantastic job. I think this was a little bit of a lighter week after, you know, that last week of the reverse 3-0 against the Fallen. Going into your next week match, you're also going into a team that's also 3-0 right now, Visored. How do you feel about, or not going to spoil anything, of course, but going into that team, how do you feel about maybe going against a team that's maybe a lot more of your skill level, being undefeated so far in the season?
You take this one, Krabby.
I think that we're going to stay undefeated in this season, and that's just how it is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I love
okay.
that.
He's calling a shot. I was not gonna say that. I was not gonna say all
Hey.
I don't know. All right, everyone.
Until you make it.
This
Hey,
is
wait.
opinion purely. We respect all our opponents, and we think it'll be a.
Oh, 100%. It'll be a
game.
great match. It'll be a great
Yeah.
match.
Not-
We're just going to come out on top.
not the PR like backup.
No. It'll be a great match. It'll be a great match.
Cannot get clipped, bro. We cannot get clipped.
It's fine. We're bring our A game. We're gonna be there. Be square. That's what it
I'm
is.
blaming Krabby if we lose.
I'm blaming. Just don't put him in. It's okay.
Just got bulletin board of material. It's over.
Oh no. Well, with that being said, after a wonderful win, and of course, our last question to you will be a shout out question. So, who do you guys want to give a shout out to on the broadcast?
I'm gonna give a shout out to Zeta Teriyaki, my goat, for subbing in first map when my other flex support decided to go AWOL.
That's 100%. A shout out to Zach. Like that was huge. We love that sub.
Yep, it's pretty chill. I don't know. I really got another shout out. Maybe shout out Ben Q Zowie for my mouse. I don't know. I was feeling it today on this setup.
Ooh.
Oh.
I love the shout out to like the actual manufacturer. That I think is a brand new thing we've never gotten. But you know what? Shout outs to the Logitechs of the world.
Please
shout out to
sponsor
the
us.
Grizz of the world. Please sponsor Lil Gromane. They're gonna win CGL. That's what they're banking on.
Yeah.
But I'll let you guys go. It was always fun to talk to you guys as always, and I cannot wait to see how you do into Visored for next week's match.
100%. Y'all have a great night.
Thank you so much. Have a good one. They're always so funny. Like
They are.
I can never have like a interview where it's just like let's lock in. It's always we're locking out. They're so funny. I love both of them so
Look,
much.
They locked in for the match so they could lock out during interviews.
Yes, of course. And then they the PR. I think the
Then-
PR backup was what really made the interview. But oh, Thor, any last words before we dip out for the night?
Let's take a look at least what matches we've at least had for
Oh, yes.
this last day of the CGL week 3, because we definitely did not start the day with an NA matchup.
Oh, we definitely did. And CGO always known for their NA and EU opportunities. Oh, in EMEA, we had a game 5er between, oh no, that team. I can't pronounce that. Gelders Gadgets versus SCR Need Bastion. So 3-2 in favor of Geld, and what a wonderful series to start the day off with. And then we end off with, of course, that 3-0 from Illo Groundmain versus Iliad Poseidon. Shout out to our earlier production, shout out to our earlier casters as well. And of course, for this production, shout outs to my producers, shout outs to some new observers getting into the scene. Very excited to have them learn the ropes and be part of the CGO family. Absolutely fantastic work from everybody today. But otherwise, Thor, I think that's all we really have. Shout out to our teams. Great stuff today as always. And we're only almost halfway. Was it almost halfway through? Yeah, we're almost at the halfway point of season 16. That's crazy. Week 4 is just next week.
Yeah, week 4 is next week, and soon it's going to be mid-season tournament, and that's where a lot of people are going to be showing their stuff again. So a lot of CGL to come, but that is pretty much it for CGL for this week 3. Expect for matches starting week 4, but that is all we have for tonight. I am Thor Yamea, your color caster, and to my right, yes, no, right, yes, right, it's Montanema,
yes.
my
We're inverted.
my play-by-play caster. And just like our low-gram main players, we have locked out already at some point, but that it is for tonight, and see y'all next time.